Welcome back, everyone. Today, Bree and I are joined by the very lovely Sandra Ferens, who gave us Quinn in Motherland, Fort Salem. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We're so excited to talk to you.
Well,
Yay.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
You're the reason we do. You're the reason we do what we do. So,
Well,
well,
you're
true.
the reason we do what we do.
Yeah.
So. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Symbiotic, sort of parasitical relationship.
Yes, let's go with that.
Yeah. I love it.
All right. So, first question. When we are first introduced to Quinn, she's performing fixer work that's similar to the kind that Raylla and Willa do. Where did Quinn learn this Christo-pagan work?
Again, the writers tell us what the characters know and don't know, but in my own musings about that, I just think it's matriarchal knowledge that is like the same way we learn from the matriarchs in our own families, like recipes and different ways. Like I know my grandmother knew all the plants in Manitoba where we grew up and what they could make and things like that. So I think it just passed down.
Makes sense.
Would be my that's my feeling about it anyway.
I love that. Then it makes it more of like a cultural thing versus like I went to school to learn this.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the story, because in that first that first scene where I meet with Raylla and Tally, it's like, oh, look who's speaking, college speak. But
yeah,
we're all college educated now, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And a lot of it is, they don't teach you that at that fancy school, do you? Even though I guess Quinn must have gone there to have been but didn't make it up into the upper level, I guess.
The war college.
Yeah, she was more the cannon fodder kind of.
With old Willa.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like that it's just like thinking of it as because this Motherland in general is very passed down from mother to daughter type of feel in general. So it gives it a deeper culture.
Yeah.
I like that.
So speaking of like military stuff, so Quinn at this point, I guess when we're first introduced to her in that scene you're talking about, it seems like she was definitely in the military, but it seems to be like retired from it now. And it's like living her life in the session. Yeah. So that's a really interesting area of the world because it seems to be like this place where like non-witches and witches are like living in harmony. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, now that Quinn's out of the military, like what is her view on like the military and her service and like what does it mean to her, I guess?
So again, these are just my speculations. I think probably if there had been more time to flesh out stories, probably Elliot would have provided some of that for us, but she's chosen to live or has come from the Session, which is sovereign Cherokee land. So I think that also says a lot about wanting to not live under the established state of America. So that I just think that better off to just leave that alone. And I think unlike Willa, her decision was just to absent herself from the state, and quite disillusioned, I think, with the military and what witches were conscripted to do on behalf of the state. So I think she's just trying to fly under the radar until life finds her. Yeah.
So, because we never get to actually know a lot about the whole, like, the backstory, obviously, because there's, a lot of storylines going on, but it was just always interesting to me that there was an actual, like, you saw someone who was retired from the military, because in the beginning it always felt like they were like, well, you're gonna die fighting, at some point. So
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting to see that there was someone who actually got to retire from military service.
I
Yes.
think early on, I hope I'm not misspeaking, but when we were, after being cast and asking some questions about it, there was some of the early drafts had mentions of an injury, so that she was
Mm,
discharged because of injury. And then I think it just complicated everything to CG an injury all the time and things. But I do like, but PTSD is also um, a kind of disability. So I think that's, I think in my mind, that's because she talks about, when she talks about the time she and Willa had, there's this mix of, as we hear from veterans all the time, this intense camaraderie under these intense conditions that creates this kind of intimacy that you never have with anyone else, but also the trauma that is an injury. So that was
absolutely.
that was kind of the backstory that I was giving her.
It's go ahead, Theora.
I also love that, like, despite trying to like remove herself from the military, like you were saying, and kind of like live her life now. I do love that when we are very first introduced to Quinn, her first scene is like she's still healing people and helping people,
Yeah,
which
but for
like,
money.
yeah, for a price. That's true. But I love that. It's like, that's what she was doing in the army, and she's still helping
Yeah, but now
people.
she does it for cash. So
Yeah, on her
She's
terms.
using, at least she's using her work.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, give me the
I do
cash.
love that.
But
Hey, gotta eat, right?
Yeah,
got it,
you gotta eat.
Gotta eat.
got it.
Casseroles or cash, one of the
Yeah,
two.
yes, exactly.
Okay, so in season 2, there's a scene where Tally walks in on Quinn meeting with a group of Dodgers.
hmm
Uh, what is Quinn's involvement in the Dodger community?
Again, I don't know what the writers would have said. I think it's just that somebody who's trying not to be involved, but also wants to do the right thing. So she knows they're there. Everyone should live and let live. But now, when push comes to shove, and the Camarilla is putting people in danger and things, that she, with her training and her with her military training, her ability to organize, and maybe kind of her position in the community as an elder, um, amongst the non-indigenous people, that she just, I think somewhat reluctantly, has to step in and do her thing. But yeah, it's just everyone. I guess a little bit. I don't know. A little bit being up in Canada during the Vietnam War, we had a lot of Dodgers, and there are whole communities in British Columbia, in particular, in the Kootenays, that are whole towns that were that rose up because of that. And
Mm,
it's just,
it's
you do
very
you.
interesting.
Yeah, you do you. So
I like that.
I love that. That's such a great answer. So our next question we talked about a little bit. We were going to ask you if you had a backstory for Quinn. I know you mentioned a couple of things like 5 minutes ago, but do you have any other little like tidbits or things you thought of for like who Quinn
um,
was before we were introduced to her?
it's interesting. Actors work in really different ways, and I know
Mhm.
I've had castmates who want to sit down and talk about our backstory, and I'm not usually that kind of an actor. I like to work with the words on the page, and
Okay.
try and figure out why the writer is having that character make those sounds at that particular moment. So in real life, we're not always thinking about our backstory. So sometimes, like all the things that I just said to you now, I didn't think of those things and then audition or then played the part. It kind of arose as I said the words and lived the things that the character is living in those imaginary circumstances, and then went, oh, this feels like this after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty that there's not a heck of a lot. Every once in a while it bugs me that I don't have a whole name. It's like,
Yeah.
Right?
It does.
you know, at some point she must have had a family and a name. So even that, the fact that she just goes by Quinn and there's no sort of, I don't know if that's a surname or like, but that's her identity now. Um, says like there's something back there that is like a door has been closed, and I don't know how much of that would have become relevant, um, and maybe has something to do with why she feels so protective of all those young women.
Ooh.
And you know, pulls herself out of a really uneventful existence that she's managed to create for herself and decides to go back into action. So yeah, it's a mystery. It's a mystery to me too, but it wasn't, it wasn't, there's so much to do in such a short time, on a shoot schedule like that, and you don't get the scripts that far ahead of time. So it didn't impact my ability to do what was on the page. But there are, I think I have probably all the same questions. Like, what is her name?
Elliot!
Yeah, that's who he is now. So maybe he could spin her off. I don't know.
We have so many questions for Elliot, and that you just added
That's one of
another
them.
one. Yes.
Yeah. There's so much in this world that could be in many different media, like graphic novels, or you know,
Yes.
if another series doesn't manifest, or in some ways that this is so rich.
Yes.
I've always felt like we needed 20 episodes a season rather than 10.
Yeah, 20 episodes with, like some of the other alternate worlds that we see being built, and they have 5 minutes just establishing someone in a room and letting the richness of the worlds develop. And yeah, this one moved out of necessity really fast.
Yeah, it had to be hard to pick and choose what to actually put on the screen.
Yeah.
So don't envy that, but it's nice to get to watch it.
Yeah.
So we don't catch up with Quinn again until halfway through season 3. Do you have any idea what she was up to since the season 2 finale?
Well, buying a new house, apparently.
Yeah.
we had questions about that.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it gets all wrapped and everything else. We were supposed to shoot those days in that funky house from season 2, but COVID played havoc with who could be shooting on that day, and the days we were scheduled to shoot on that location because of COVID rearrangements, another set of scenes had to be shot on those days, and that was the location that they had. So that became someone else's house, and then they had to source something that they could make vaguely look like my house. It was much fancier. So she obviously, I don't know,
she had quite a summer.
Someone died, or I don't know.
She must have healed a lot of people.
Yeah, Frank died and left her his money. I don't know what happened there. So out of necessity, and also and then it became part of the story. So it's a mystery again because of having to tie up all the storylines. Like, she's on the bus with everybody, driving the bus, and then everything we pick up the story, like, I think we missed a few steps in order to wrap it all up in one season. So just went back to the session just to keep her ear to the ground, I think. Because they are wanted, and so I think she just went back and was maybe a central place where people could, as they do, could come and just be intel, because she does have that ability to connect as they all do. So I think that's what I think she's doing, just and try not to draw attention to things,
Right.
That makes perfect sense. Because we were like, well, where did Quinn go? She's
I
suddenly
know.
missing.
Like
When,
they
when
mentioned
I
Quinn
found out,
and
when we found out that was like they had to wrap it all up in one season, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, will I get run over by the bus?
No.
that would have been a very sad fate.
Well, because it was like because they had so much of so long-standing storylines that had to be wrapped
I
up in such
know.
a short time. I thought, well, there's like you know, that's there's not going to be any time to further develop this. So, are they just going to like throw me under the bus?
It's like Nicta ran over.
Yeah. Nicta. Yeah.
In my brain, it would have like if we had gotten the actual road trip, if you will, it would have always been Quinn driving. So
Yes, because I have an awesome picture of me and my double because I don't drive a bus. So
That's so cool.
yeah, so there's a picture of me and my double, and we look like twisted twins from a Coen movie. It's really awesome.
Oh my gosh,
I love that.
that must be that's so awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, they were all set for someone to be driving. Yeah. But
Because in my mind, it was like Quinn driving, and then there's a ruckus in the back, and she's just having to deal with all these kids
back there. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I know.
Are we there yet? Be quiet.
Because Tally would ask, like, "Are we there yet,
yeah.
Quinn?"
Yeah. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yeah. I don't know.
Rail's just being quiet.
For the magical mystery bus tour, I don't know where they were what they were gonna do on the bus. Yeah.
Abigail's starting fights with Nicta.
Yes.
I could see that.
Wow. We're sad we didn't get our bus ride of chaos with everybody. But we do love that we come back and Quinn has
this. Imagine it.
You
see? There you go.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
That's what fan fiction is for.
Exactly the way you want it to be.
Uh-huh.
You're right. That's a wonderful way of looking at it.
It's the bus ride that you the way you want it to be.
Okay. We were going to ask you about the house, but you already answered that. You want to go to the next question, Bree?
Sure. So, what do you think Quinn was feeling when she learned that Willa turned to the spree?
That's a really complicated one, hey? When someone that you care about that like is radicalized in that way, and we see so much of it in the world right now, that if people feel so disempowered that all they can do is turn to violence. I had the moment when Scylla says that to Edmund, and I looking at the line that was written and then talking to Brian on set and saying it's just like really all it was just Willa, like just all of that encapsulated. Like it's understanding why the choice that Quinn made was to leave and let things take their course, but go into a nation that wasn't that didn't share that militaristic value, and Scylla took the radicalization. And I guess like everywhere in the world, someone's freedom fighter is someone else's terrorist. So
when you delivered that line, it was so like layered, though.
Yeah, and sometimes the most layered things we don't have words for. So it was it's lovely to be able to work with writers like that and just realize that sometimes you can't say anything, and that's the truth of that moment. So it is, there's again so much complexity woven into this kind of action story, that it's those moments like that you don't know, I guess you don't know what to think.
The whole scene was beautiful, though. The
was.
three of you just
I haven't
delivered.
been able to see it.
Oh, it was one of my
Oh, it's
favorites.
so beautiful.
I'm
We don't
so
get
sorry. You should.
well. We don't. I don't have a bit of a luddite. I don't have a VPN, and you can't get Hulu in Canada,
Oh.
and it's not airing. The network airing of it on ABC stopped at episode 3 weeks ago for some reason, and I was googling
Weird.
everything, searching, and I'm not the only person in Canada going, where did it go? Where did it go? So um I hope we'll be able to catch up. But it was, yeah, it was, you could tell when we were shooting it, and Shannon being the director that she is, that and the writing, and Rothgar and Amalia, it was gonna be good.
Yeah.
It really was.
It was. It was. It was very impactful. That's how I'll put it.
Good. I'll look forward
Because
to
it was such an important scene for all three characters
Right.
in a way. Because like Scylla's been carrying that around for like a year, like
a couple
almost
of
like
years.
2 years at that point.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is basically her father-in-law that she's about to give this information to, that
Yeah.
he could conceivably turn around and just like hate her for not telling him. And Quinn, who she obviously had some camaraderie with.
Yeah.
So
And who had her suspicions.
yeah,
Already.
I'm sure she.
Yeah, about what that Willa ain't dead.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered
I'm
that
glad you
if
said
Quinn
that.
kind of had an inkling.
There was a line, it was shot in the first episode I appeared in, that was cut because the audience already knew Willa wasn't dead, but Quinn, with the information that Willa hadn't shown up for Raylla, the line Quinn said, well, maybe Willa ain't dead. And I always in the original drafts, I had all these dun 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 lines.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
and
it.
was fun. But I knew ahead of time that was going to get cut because the audience already knew, and you have such a short amount of time. You don't need to hear characters say something that the audience already knows. But yeah, that because it is written in there. There's something going on here. And I guess going back to your previous question, I think the hardest thing to wrap our minds around was that just letting her loved ones think she's dead, for their own protection, but still her own daughter and her husband and best friends. That
Yep.
yeah, that was that I think that probably more the personal part of it probably hit harder than maybe, although maybe it shouldn't, but the mass terrors that this breed.
Well, that's just how humans operate. The emotional part that connects to another person is always going to hit you harder in the
or more
in the
immediate.
feels.
Yeah.
And more immediately. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it seems though that like Quinn is close with the Collars just in general. So like Willa, obviously, because they served together and had that like intimacy from how the literal wars they went through. But she does seem, in the aftermath of Willa being gone, to have formed a connection with like Edwin and Raylla. So what is her?
Yeah, she said I was your babysitter and things.
Yeah.
So I think a little bit of backstory that I didn't really think about, it just kind of arose, was that they'd known each other for a long time, like before the army, and that living in the session, that they kind of grew up together in a way, and there's always been a family connection there. So that one goes back and back.
That was my impression, so I'm glad that that's the case, because that was always
again, it's not the case until the writers say it's the case,
right?
But it's interesting how, even though, and maybe Elliot and Brian didn't even have that in their conscious mind, but it's interesting working with text. that there are things that just kind of, you just kind of intuit. And then it's interesting when you speak to your audience and they go, yeah, I got that too. So somehow that impression, even maybe from something as simple as a line like "I was your babysitter," or just there's just some things I couldn't even put my finger on them, and then you heard the lines rather than read them, like I get to do, and the same thing is living in there. So they stuck it in there somehow. I don't know if they could
Mm-hmm.
explain it even, but yeah, it's there.
I don't know, some kind of just the way that we interpret
Yeah,
the language and the even the non-verbal
yeah,
language that
yeah,
it just comes across,
yeah,
which is kind of cool. So,
yeah.
all right, you mentioned that Quinn's storyline was reduced due to season 3 being the final season. Do you have any idea? Did they give you any indication what the story arc might have been if the
No,
show?
no, no. I'm, and that's my assumption. I like, no one told me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an assumption. Um, Pretty logical assumption, I think, at that moment. But the fact that all like a certain that the group of leads was on that bus and I was on that bus, you know, I led me to believe that I was going to show up in season 3, and that there was, as we were talking about later, there was going to be something about that journey that, and I don't know, probably kind of bonding, being kind of maternal figure for those young women, because there's lots of missing moms
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
in their stories. And yeah, and Alder's not exactly sort of warm and fuzzy in that way. So yeah, so
No.
I think sort of what we were talking about before, that this matriarchal, ancestral, non-formalized way of passing knowledge and knowledge keeping and things, that I think there was a little bit of that function that that would have been in there, sharing workings that they don't
Yes.
teach, like you saw Scylla and Quinn
Hmm.
start to do um, at the end of season 2 with the
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen more of that
Me
yeah,
too.
relationship.
I was
I think there
hoping.
would have been, yeah, I think there would have been more, but again, we
That
can
would have been
imagine.
nice.
Hey, she
We
got to
can
share
make
her
So
the
fancy
stories we
yeah,
want.
house. She got to share her fancy house with
I've
everybody.
got a fancy house.
Fancy
Yeah,
house.
yeah, like I want that house.
I want that house too. I would love to have that
Right?
I want I want Quinn's apparent like windfall of money.
Quinn won the lottery in between
You want
season
a
2,
lottery
season
of some
3.
kind.
A
Maybe
couple
a casino. I don't know.
I'm
Did
super
something.
retired in this beautiful house now.
Yeah. Trade the stock market. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
There you go. Play the stock market.
Who knows?
Um okay. So how does working on Motherland compare to other projects that you've done previously?
Working on Motherland was a complete and total joy. Um, I mean, getting on, like I've been doing this for a while. It was not unusual to be the only woman on set between the cast and the crew. Um, and there's a kind of energy to that. Um, and being on Motherland, the cast and directors, producers, Amanda, um, there were so many women, which was an interesting thing. And then the culture created by Elliot as the showrunner, it was just lovely from the minute you went to get your COVID test, or and wardrobe and hair and makeup. It was just a lovely place to go, which, as like in lots of endeavors, that's not always the case. So it was yeah, it was a really lovely experience. I feel really blessed that I was given that opportunity. Yeah.
We've heard that from everyone.
Yeah.
Like literally everyone.
Yeah, it's
So.
and it begins with casting. Well, it begins with how with the culture of the whole creation of the show and the values of the people who are creating it, and then it carries into the team they put together. And yeah, it was just it was just a wonderful group of people throughout, throughout the cast and crew.
It's amazing.
I love that so much.
And the caterers too.
Yeah.
'Cause they're really important.
Of course.
Yeah, if you don't eat, you can't work.
Right. No, and you need your treats so you don't get cranky after.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything you particularly
do you know what Hawkins cheesies are?
No, but I have a feeling you're going to tell us.
They're a Canadian. They're a Canadian thing. They're a cheesy, like a Cheetos, but so much better.
Okay. Okay.
Ooh, good choice.
Crafty had Hawkins cheesies, and that was people started bringing them to me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Here's the last bag.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Here's the last bag. It's for
Here's
you.
The last bag. It's for you. Stuffing my pockets full.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
that's what was in your.
Yeah, you don't see them very often, so that was great for me.
I'm gonna have to look that up because cheese things, crispy cheese things are my jam.
I don't know if these are the best. I don't know maybe Amazon will send them. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll check on that.
Thanks for the tip.
They're amazing.
I believe you. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Theora, did you have anything else?
Yeah. So we also found out that you teach or used to teach acting classes. So I'm kind of wondering.
I would say.
Yeah.
No,
did you?
I don't know what it's like.
I would say that teaching is what I would say is my primary profession, because actor training is a really mysterious thing. Like, how do you get somebody, like the imagination and the desire to live into a story, I think is just, if there's something that people are born with that you can't teach, it's that. I think it's what makes somebody want to be a musician as opposed to a dancer, or there's just something about so deeply wanting to be in a story that you start acting it out. And so, but a lot of the way that like people have been struggling, people have been curious for millennia actually, about how do people do this. And I noticed that when I finished my training, so many years ago, before there was fire, that I understood what I wanted to make, but I often couldn't do it. It'd be like, I don't know if you've ever heard a song in your head or imagined a painting, but without the training to actually get the paint to do what you needed to do, or in knowledge of music that you could actually manifest it somehow. So
totally.
I became really curious about that, and I really, really love being in the studio and in the classroom, exploring how actors do what they do. And in the course of that, it's helped me in my own pursuits. But these things like Motherland, they come around, few and far between. So I would say that that's a thing that I focus on.
I love that.
That's really cool.
That's so fascinating.
Theora and I both write, so we can there's a lot of times where I will see a story in my head, but I cannot for the life of me find the words to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so it just lives there until one day just something happens.
Yeah.
Or it just lives there forever, because some of them never come to fruition.
I'm reading it's a fairly old book now. There's a Vietnamese American poet writer, Ocean Vuong, and he wrote a book called On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. and it's a letter to his mom, who's illiterate as a Vietnamese boat person fleeing the war. And he talks a lot about where stories come from and walking into stories and kind of watching yourself walk into the story and leaving yourself behind, and where the words come from. So it's it's kind of the counterpart to the writing.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah. Oh, it's a shatteringly beautiful book. Shatteringly beautiful.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. But it's like we talked about the symbiotic relationships between audience and performer. I can create and I can direct. I have created shows and things, but when we're acting, sometimes the metaphor I use for my students is we're the piano. And the piano doesn't go, this would be better in F sharp major. It plays the notes given. So I say what I say because someone wrote it down. So
is that like a piece of advice you give all of your students?
yeah, and everyone has different approaches, but that I would, the writer is the primary artist in what we do. So you play their music.
So what would you say to someone like in our audience that was looking to get into acting? Like, what do you think they should know? I know that's a very big question. It's hard.
It's hard. I know, and students get really tired of people who are still engaged in it saying things like, if you think you could be happy doing anything else, right? But no, I would know why you want to. If it's not about celebrity, or that may come, probably not for most, but why you want to do it, and get training from people. Like when you audition for a school or you interview for a school, remember that it's going both ways. They're not just seeing if you're worthy of being in their program. You need to see, are these people who will respect who I am? We're like so much else. The parameters about who can be an actor, thankfully, are changing. So are they going to hear your voice? Are they going to see you in your physicality? So yeah, just I would pursue it, encourage it, so you don't spend the rest of your life wondering what if. But know who you are, because it's really easy to hear things about, do this to yourself, do that to yourself, to fit some sort of marketable.
Yes.
Yeah.
The intersection of capitalism and art.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah. But it does seem like, at least over the recent years, there does seem to be culture shift happening. Like you mentioned, like with Motherland, it was mostly female cast, which is like kind of novel and things like that. And so
and hearing different voices, not whitewashing voices all the time. Yeah.
That's why we really enjoyed the time we've gotten to spend in the session this season.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want a whole show just about the council and the session. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's the spinoff I want to see.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many layers to this universe that it could be a whole universe.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's just, Elliot has so many things within the Motherland world that could just be their own entities, period.
Yeah.
You could take any one of these characters and have an entire series based around them, or like you said, an entire like graphic novel series.
Yeah. So hopefully the stories won't stop, that they'll find they'll find other media and be able, and then stories, as we see with superheroes and things, cross over from media.
Yeah.
So
We still have the campaign. Like we're still fighting. So
well, it's worked
that,
before.
yeah. I mean, it trends every time that things get going, and Amalia's been trending for the past 2 days.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Taylor was doing the Star Fury convention, and she was talking about a couple of things involving Amalia, and then it just like went.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, I wish them all the success in the world. They're very talented, really deserving young women that I hope we see far more
Absolutely.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe back together again at some
That
point.
would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes, because we need to actually get Quinns' backstory someday.
And her last name.
Yeah.
We need Quinn's last name,
or her first name,
Yeah,
or
her
her
real
first
name.
name.
Yeah.
You're right.
You're
I
right.
don't know.
So many questions.
Yeah, so, like what happened to her family.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Oh well, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Okie dokie. Well, do you have any final words for our listeners at home before we wrap everything up?
Just a huge thank you, because I can't remember where I read this. It was a book about acting, and a British. I know it was a British female actor, and speaking about the difference between working live on stage and working for the camera. And the way she put it was, when you're live on stage, it's like having a conversation, because you feel the audience, you feel their reactions, and it's unique every single time you perform. Even a whole big group of people becomes a singular personality. They're all different. But when you work for the camera, and this is how old this quote was, it's like writing a letter to somebody and putting it in the mail, and you did anyone get it? Did they read it? Are they going to write back? Right? So when people take, I mean, it's my job to go and do what I do. I get lots of different kinds of rewards from going to do what I do, but we make it for you. And the fact that you take time out of your day to engage, and then not just engage by watching, but engage by wanting to tell us we're appreciated and learn more about how and why we do what we do. It's a really important thing. Like, that's the work doesn't exist until it's embraced by an audience. So it's just a really special thing. And it's yeah, thank you. Thanks for being there.
Thank you.
We thank you for doing what you do, and
it's completely interdependent.
it is. And it's also why we started to try to get as many of the crew as possible as well.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to highlight their work.
Well, we can't do anything without everyone, you know.
And we also wanted to kind of do Caitlin, our producer Caitlin, is really passionate about educating people about what goes on behind the scenes and what each crew member does. So that was another important thing for us, to have everyone that worked on the show represented, hopefully.
Yeah.
So
we're
really glad that you came in and talked to us.
Well, I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm it's really lovely to be asked, because it seemed like such a small thing, but yet somehow, again, due to the quality of the writing, it's like something bigger than the sum of its parts came out of that. Who has the dog?
Me.
Ours is being very quiet right now.
You're
didn't
lucky.
put her in your crate. So
what kind of dog do you have?
It's not my dog. Our eldest daughter is staying with us. She's a stage manager. And when COVID hit, all the work dried up, and she moved up north in British Columbia to Fort St. John with her partner, who's a helicopter pilot. So for a long time, they've been not very often in the same city, because her work is urban and his work is rural. He was fighting forest fires and now flying helicopters. So she went up there, and then now theater's slowly starting. So she's back here actually stage managing a show at Shakespeare Festival here called Bard on the Beach that her dad directed.
Ooh.
Actually, my husband directed. And so it's her dog. That's a very long way of saying it's her dog.
That sounds cool though. Like, I'd go to that.
Yeah, a little bit of a family business happening.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week, Theora's dogs were in her lap while we
What kind
did
of
the
dogs
episode
are they?
review.
What kind of dogs are they?
I have a golden doodle and a cockapoo.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
the golden doodle's a giant baby, and I had to hold her the whole time we were.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. And my middle daughter, her partner was on locations for Motherland.
Oh, wow.
That was kind of a funny.
That's cool.
Bit of that was kind of funny. So,
speaking of interconnectedness
yeah,
and
right?
coincidences,
yeah, I got a lot of intel about what was going on.
you're like, all right, give me the skinny.
I don't like nothing. Just sort of, am I coming back? Who's up on the board?
Nice.
Your picture's still there. Okay. You're still there.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming to talk to us. It was very lovely, and we hope somehow that the series goes on, and who knows, maybe we'll get to see you
in some form
inhabiting Quinn again someday. But
that would be splendid. Thank you.
And with that, we've been Big Witch Energy. If you like this episode, check out all of our other episodes right here on YouTube. Please like, comment below, and subscribe for more amazing content. Hydrate for Lesbian Jesus.